Alright, so in this clip, we will open the components that we just downloaded and prepare them for import into SketchUp. So let's go ahead and open the low poly birch tree model. So that's whitebirch.skp. When we open the file, we'll see something like this. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to go into the Styles tab and select our working style. So just to see more accurately what this will actually look like when we import it into the model. Once we've done this, we want to check the dimensions of the object. So right now we want to check the height, because this is the trees that were marked on the plan were adult trees. So this is 25 foot tall approximately, and an adult birch tree can range anywhere from 50 to 70 foot tall. So we'll select this, and then we'll select the scale tool, and then we'll scale this to twice its current height of 25 feet. So I'm going to type 2 on the numerical pad and press enter. And this is about the right height. Now, the other really important thing to check whenever you import a component is the geometry of the component centered on the model origin? And the answer for this one is no. So you see this is the model origin, and this is where my geometry is centered. So I want to move my tree to the center of the model space. This is important because when you swap components, you want to be sure that the new geometry arrives exactly at the place where the old geometry was. So you need to make it a habit to center all of the geometry that's in the components that you download. So now let's take a look back at this and ask ourselves a very important question. Does this component satisfy my two sets of requirements that I have for components? So the first set of requirements that I have for this component specifically is to provide me with a low poly 3D model that I can use in my terrain, and that I can also use to model shadow directions. So yeah, it does satisfy that. The second set of requirements is, does this model allow me to properly see a tree in 2D plan view? And the answer to that is no. So it's very simple. If we go into the top view, we can see that basically if we make a plan, all we're going to see is this hex. So obviously this is not the architectural tree symbol that you want to see on the layout plan. So we're going to have to make one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the diameter of the tree. Right now this is 26 foot 8 approximately. I'm going to go here. I'm going to create a circle that has that diameter. So that's 13 foot 4 as the diameter, which is 160 inches. So I'm going to type that and press enter. And I'm going to make a second circle that is at the center of this one, just to indicate the actual tree diameter. So it's suggesting 1 foot 3 to me, which sounds reasonable. And now I'm basically just gonna, make it look good and draw what you would expect to see on a typical AutoCAD 2D plan. So the symbol for a tree on plan view. I have a bunch of these that I already made that I use in my architectural project. So you're gonna have access to that in the demo folder, as well as, of course, access to this one. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to select the faces and start deleting them, because I just want the line work for this. And I do sort of want X over here as well. There you go. And I'm going to delete the faces here. Alright, so this is okay for a tree symbol. So I'm going to select all of this and hit G to transform it into a component. I'll name this A for architecture, P for plan, and tree birch. There you go. So now I'm going to select, of course, the center of this and move it to the center of the component here. Now, some of you that have already dabbled inside of layout will probably ask themselves, okay, that's great, but you also have the option to do exactly the same thing in layout, so why would you do this in SketchUp instead of layout? And if any of you were wondering that while watching this, then that's a very good question. So the answer to that is, if you do it this way inside of SketchUp, you only need to do it once. whereas in layout you need to manually drag and drop the tree markers where the trees are supposed to be, so it just saves time. Now that we've created this, obviously these two entities won't be seen in the space ideally at the same time, so I need to put them on separate layers. So basically I'm going to go into layers and I'm going to create two layers. So I'm going to create one which is AM for modeling and then tree low poly, and the second one a plan and tree markers. And I'm going to assign the geometry to their respective layers. So I'm going to pick the tree marker here and I'm going to assign it to AP tree markers. And I'm going to pick the main geometry and assign it to AM tree L. Alright, so now this is on the proper layer. As a last cosmetic sort of change, just to make it look nicer when we import it into the model, I don't actually need to see the rectangle lines of this tree. So I'm going to go inside, select everything, and then Control Shift plus deselect the faces, go into Edit and select Hide. There you go. So that's much better. All right, so this is what we want. The last thing we need to do is we need to select this, and it's a bit counterintuitive, but you'll see why we're doing this when I import this into SketchUp. We need to lift this off the ground. So the circle that marks where the tree is, we're going to lift it not by a lot, but let's say by 4 feet, so 48 inches. The reason for that is because we don't want it to go through the terrain. If the terrain is at an angle, we sort of want it always to see it on the plan. And that's pretty much it. So we're gonna go ahead and hit File, Save As, and just, give it a name that's a bit more appropriate for what we want to do. So architecture tree birch low poly, and hit save. All right, there we go. In the next clip, we will open up the high resolution tree and see how we can adjust that model for import.